evening. Welcome to Film Forum, Atlanta's newest movie review show, where we'll be reviewing the latest films and keeping you in touch with the film industry here in Georgia. I'm Steve Markos. I'm your host each and every week, along with Aron Siegel. How's it going tonight, Aron?
It's going great, Steve.
Well, nothing hectic like last week when we had to go see Passenger 57 right before the show. We got to see these well in advance. Got a couple films for you again tonight. Aron, what do we got for them?
We've got Reservoir Dogs and we've got Jennifer 8.
All right, and then coming up after those reviews, we'll have Critics' Choice. This week is Con Man movies. I'll be giving you my favorite three, Aron's favorite three, and then towards the end of the show, a very special guest. Aron, we have a female. Who is she this time?
We have Lillie Benitez of Stage Left Casting, and she'll be on later on in the show.
All right, sounds good. So let's get started. Time's a-wasting. What movie you want to review first here?
I think I'll take Reservoir Dogs.
All right, take it away.
Before I get into this film, I'd like to kind of give you a little bit background on what the director had to go through to get this film produced. The director's name is Quentin Tarantino, and he ended up writing this script and trying to shop it around, but he wouldn't let any of the studios produce this film unless he directed it, and that's just impossible in today's film industry. Well, he had a friend that knew another guy that knew Harvey Keitel, who's one of the actors in the film. And Harvey Keitel liked the script so much that he co-produced it with Quentin Tarantino. The story of Reservoir Dogs is the story of a jewel heist that's gone wrong. A big mobster guy has arranged for 5 jewel thieves, jewel robbers, professional robbers, to take over a jewelry store to steal some diamonds. And the heist goes all wrong, and everybody thinks that somebody else the other people have stolen the jewel, or have turned the rest of them in. They think there's a rat in the bunch. They think there might be a cop, because the police showed up so soon after they broke into the store. Anyway, the clip that we're about to show has 3 of the robbers, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Pink, and Mr. White. Mr. White is Harvey Keitel. And they're discussing what they're going to be doing about what they've got to do now that the robbery's gone awry. And here's the clip.
Are you going to bark all day, little doggy? Or are you going to bite? What was that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. Would you repeat it? Are you going to bark all day, little doggy? Or are you going to bite?
Oh, Christ. Hey, look, you two. Calm down. Hey, come on. Back up. What are we on a playground here, huh? Am I the only professional?
You said yourself you thought about taking him out. You said that?
Yeah, I did, okay? I did. But that was then. Right now, this guy is the only one I completely trust. Let's try and figure out who the bad guy is, all right?
Wow. That was really exciting. I bet you're a big Lee Marvin fan, aren't you? Yeah, me too. I love that guy.
And that's a clip from Reservoir Dogs, a Miramax release that just opened last week?
Friday.
Last Friday.
So what do you think? I'll let you go first. What do you think of it?
I thought it was great. I watched the film, and I thought about the script and how well the script was written, and the conversations, and everything about the script was just so wonderful. They really brought a lot of life and action to the characters. The acting was fabulous. It was quite violent, though. I thought that there was a lot of violence.
One scene. When you say you love the script, there's 3 things. I liked the movie more than I disliked it, and there's 3 things I didn't like, though. Let me get your opinion. I didn't like the ending at the very end. When I say the ending, the last 10 seconds, because it left me hanging as though exactly what happened to 2 or 3 of the people.
Right.
And I don't like to use my imagination come the end of the movie. I want to know 100% who's dead, who's alive. And I didn't like that.
You remember in Blade Runner, the same thing happened.
Well, yeah, that's my personal taste. Right. I like to know for sure who's alive. I also didn't like the fact that they let the cat out of the bag about 30 minutes into the film. I don't know why they did that. 30 minutes left. I think they should have waited till the last words the guy said to let the audience know who the rat was. I think the audience would have been much more surprised. What do you think of that?
I don't know. They had so much of the script left to cover who the cop was in the background about how he was a cop. And then there's an imaginary scene that never took place that they go through in the script and in the film that is just funny as can be.
I would have rather have gotten away with that and have been more surprised. And I also didn't like the beginning, which suffered from the Glengarry Glen Ross syndrome. Now, I made this up before. Now, the critic in the paper said the same thing, right? Now, you know I told you this long before the thing came out. Glengarry Glen Ross syndrome is too much talking about the same thing over and over. And I didn't like that. I thought it was too talky at the beginning. They're talking, there's a rat, there's a rat, there's a rat. I know that right from the beginning. But once they bring, Mr. Blonde shows up with a cop they've taken hostage, this movie really becomes an unforgettable film, and unforgettable because of scene of, the movie's been labeled extremely violent, and it's only one scene.
Well, it definitely is violent. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of shooting, there's a lot of action.
But the scene what they're calling extreme violence is the torture scene of the cop that they bring in.
That's true.
That really
The
disturbed me a
torture scene.
lot. And I've read a lot of reviews of most critics saying this is too much, this is just cruelty that's gone beyond what was reason. And I disagree with them for one thing. When I was watching that movie, I said, this better have something to do with the story, or else I'm going to pan this movie, because it was almost unbearable as far as that cruelty that was going on.
Yeah.
It did have a play in the plot, and I accept it for that. And because of that, I say it's a pretty good movie. But don't take your wife or girlfriend to this movie if their favorite movies are Beauty and the Beast and that kind of thing.
This is not a movie for the weak stomach.
But the extreme violence comes from one scene. That's it, that one scene. The other
That's true.
violence is not really that bad.
Right, there's a lot of shooting.
All right, go for your stars.
I'd give this film 4 stars. I really liked the script. I liked the acting. I thought it was genuine, very authentic. You didn't feel as though you were being ripped off by the cast or the characters. And I think Quentin Tarantino did a great job directing this. This was his debut.
I would have given this 3.5 stars if it wasn't for the ending, the plot giveaway, and the slow part. Because of that, I'm only going to give it 2.5 stars.
Wait a minute. So what does that give us? 3 stars?
I guess it probably comes off 3
Our
and a
division
quarter
comes out
or
with
something
3
like
stars.
that. 3 stars. If it wasn't for that, I'd say 3.5 stars. The slow beginning and those things I mentioned earlier took away from a little bit from me.
Okay. We also want to remind you that we are a call-in show. The number here is 873-6713. If you disagree with us, or if you agree with us, if you've seen some of the films that we're reviewing or we have reviewed, please feel free to call us up and let us know. The number again, 873-6713.
All right, now we're going to go on to Jennifer 8, which is our second film we got. Jennifer 8's a story of John Berlin, who's played by Andy Garcia. He's a L.A. cop who's just been transferred to a cozy little Eureka, California, to get away from the hustle and bustle of L.A. Turns out, though, before he's even started on a job, a supposed suicide victim shows up in a dump, and when the police start hunting around for more clues, they find a severed hand. It looks like it's been around for quite a while. Turns out that at the local blind institute there in Eureka, a girl has disappeared. So John Berlin starts digging around and finds out that a few years earlier, a case involving the murder of 6 blind girls had been closed and that the murderer had never been found. So he's determined to reopen the case. He heads up to the blind institute to visit his only witness, a girl named Helena, who's played by Uma Thurman. Turns out she's blind also, so she's not going to be much of a witness, but she's all he's got. And to make matters worse, no one believes that there's a killer out there. Everyone thinks John Berlin's imagination is getting the best of him. And here's a clip that we're going to show when John believes he's cornered the killer at the Blind Institute.
What's happening, brother? I hear something. Something upstairs. Oh, I got footsteps right up above me.
John, what's happening?
You are now on the 3rd floor.
To the elevator! You don't see me coming down!
right, and that was a clip from Jennifer 8, which also opened this last week. I like to make a point here. Everyone's terming this movie a thriller, suspense, whatever. Is everyone afraid to use the word mystery these days? I think this
so.
is a mystery. This is not really a
It's
serial
not a thriller
killer movie.
because you're not thrilled with any of this.
I mean, there's some suspense and stuff, but this is a good mystery for the people that enjoy the kind of person who likes to sit down, figure out the clues, and try to figure out who's done it before the end of the movie. Now, and I like the movie a lot because it stayed away from the typical serial killer movie, which is cop finds them, they're hunting down the serial killer, and they always throw in a grisly murder about every 20 minutes.
Right.
There's no grisly murders. There's a couple
They
of
all
shootings.
happened before.
Yeah, and it's very similar to Silence of the Lambs. If you take the Hannibal Lecter character out of Silence of the Lambs, I don't believe the killer ever killed anybody during that movie, did he? They found the body, and then he had the girl. He didn't kill anybody, did he? I don't remember.
I think he killed one person.
He did. Well, this movie has stayed away from the killing, stayed away from formula, and I really enjoyed it like that. I enjoyed that a lot. What do you think?
I thought the film was a good mystery, but at the same time, I didn't really feel that it really applied that much. It didn't thrill me enough to hold my attention for that long.
Well, for the people that going into the movie saying, "Hey, when are they going to kill somebody?" They're probably in for a surprise.
Well, I wasn't expecting anybody to get killed. I was just expecting.
There's a lot of people that go to a serial killer movie looking for one of these grisly murders.
But I was expecting for some sort of more clues, better clues to be released in the film.
Yeah, it was hard to. I picked out the group of people that were doing it. Actually, who did it? I couldn't really figure that out. One other thing on the roles, I liked Andy Garcia, but Uma Thurman's role, I wish, with everyone trying to be politically correct, that they would have found a real blind actress to play the part, like they did in Marlee Matlin in Children of Lesser God. When she found a deaf girl, because there's got to be a blind girl out there that can act. Seeing people don't have a monopoly on acting.
Tom Sullivan is a blind actor. He was in a film with Steve Guttenberg a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I wish they'd have done that to be a little more politically correct. And one other thing, the reason I say it's a mystery and that no one knows, a lot of times you don't really know if there is a killer. In fact, it entered my mind once that Andy Garcia himself may be the killer. Did you ever think that? I said, no, but it did enter my mind, so it kind of throws you around. I didn't like the ending, though, because the ending resorts back to typical serial killer movies, a showdown of the good guy and the bad guy. The bad guy's going to get killed.
Okay,
I wish he'd have gotten out on bail and found some evidence to point the other way.
Let's go ahead and rate this real quick.
All right, I'd give it 3.5 stars, and maybe would have been 4 if it wasn't for the ending, which resorted back to typical.
I'm going to give this one 2 stars. So what are we going to average at 3?
I guess, 3. 3 would be the average.
Okay, we'll average it at 3 stars.
All right.
Okay, and we've also got a phone call.
All right, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
You thought about a blind actress to act the part of this, but there was a movie called Wait Until Dark with Audrey Hepburn and Richard Crenna, and Audrey Hepburn acted as the blind person. She was excellent, and she's not blind in real life.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that they're not good actors or that Uma Thurman didn't do well. I would just like to see a real blind person. And in Sneakers as well, they had a seen person playing a blind person. Why don't we give some of these handicapped people a chance to play some of the roles? There's got to be good ones. There's 300 million people in the United States.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
All right. Now, one thing before we go to our top 10, we got a donation drive at People TV. All right. Food, clothing, toys, etc. for the Olympic Force Volunteer Group. And all these items will be collected, distributed November. Items collected will be distributed November 21st to food banks in Atlanta and throughout the state. So I guess you bring this stuff down here to People TV. Have a heart, do your part, and share today. Now on to the top 10.
Okay. We're going to take a look at the Metro Atlanta top 10 box office. And starting out at number 10 is Dr. Giggles. This is still holding on to a top 10 position after falling from number 7.
And nationally, it's nowhere to be seen. Sneakers is still 10 nationally.
Dropping from number 6 is Consenting Adults. It's now at number 9. And number 8 is Jennifer 8, a disappointing debut.
Let me point out, nationally, it debuted at number 5, so a little better nationally than here in Atlanta.
Okay, and number 7 is The Mighty Ducks. It rises one notch to number 7. It's the 6th week in the top 10.
And it's 4th in the nation.
Falling from number 5 is number 6, Pure Country. And at number 5 this week is Last of the Mohicans. This is the 7th week in the top 5. It drops from number 4.
It's made nationally $59 million so far. That's a surprise hit, I think.
That's Michael Mann's directorial? Yeah, okay. Number 4 is Candyman. It was number 2 last week, and it falls down to number 4. At number 3 is A River Runs Through It. It's holding from last week at number 3 for the second week in a row. And number 2 is Under Siege. It was finally knocked out of the top 10 position, the top number 1 position by Passenger 57, which is number 1.
New number 1. We reviewed that last week. I expected that movie to do well. It's kind of a no-brains action movie that a lot of people love to go and see.
What, Passenger 57?
Yeah, people love that kind of
It's getting a lot of coverage.
All right, now we're back, and we're going to move right on to the Critics' Choice. Like I said, this week, con man movies. Aaron, what's your favorite 3?
Okay. My favorite 3 con man movies. Number 1 has got to be The Sting. It's directed by George Roy Hill and stars Paul Newman and Robert Redford. This film took home 7 Oscars, 7 Academy Awards, including Best Director, Best Picture, Best Screenplay, and Best Soundtrack. It was also marked the revival of the Scott Joplin ragtime music that Marvin Hamlish won an Oscar for. This film involves 2 con men that are out to pull a sting, pull a con on a man that has had one of their best friends killed. And it's a great film. It's set in like 1932, 1934, around that time period. The costuming, the storyline, the acting, everything. It's just great. It is the number 1 con film as far as I'm concerned. My number 2 film is Opportunity Knocks. This was made in 1990. It stars Dana Carvey and was directed by Donald Petrie. It also stars Robert Loggia. This is about a con man who breaks into a house, a deserted house, not a deserted house, but a house where somebody's on vacation, and the parents of the guy that's on vacation, his friend, they think he's the friend of the guy, and they welcome him into the family. And it's got some great scenes of Dana Carvey doing President Bush and several other different cons in the film. My number 3 film is the 1987, I guess I would call it a thriller, House of Games, with Joseph Montaigne and Lindsay Krause. It was directed by David Mamet, and Lindsay Krause happened to be his wife at the time. David Mamet also wrote the screenplay for this film. And it involves a psychiatrist who's just written a best-selling novel, and she's taken in by these con men and swindled for a great deal of money. And those are my top 3. What about yours, Steve?
All right, well, mine, again, is The Sting is number 1. As Aaron pointed out, 7 Academy Award winners, nominated for 10. Robert Redford, Paul Newman, Robert Shaw, what more can you say? The thing I like about a good con movie is not a movie about where a con man is conning people in the movie. A good con movie, a truly good one, is when the audience ourselves is conned. And The Sting really pulls it off at the end of the movie. We're looking out in right field, and the action's over here in left field. We're sitting there holding the bag, and I love being fooled like The Sting did. Everything else Aaron pointed out, he mentioned costumes. It won the Oscar for that. So a great film. If you haven't seen it, run out after the show here and grab it. Number 2, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. And this is like right up there with The Sting. This is with Steve Martin and Michael Caine. This is hilarious. It not only has the good con like The Sting, but this movie is hilarious. They basically play 2 straight roles. But it's with the situations they put themselves in that become so funny. Quick rundown, Michael Caine is a con man who hustles rich women out of millions. Steve Martin thinks if he gets $20 out of a girl, he's done well. They meet on a train. Steve Martin's bragging around about how he just took a girl for 20, and Michael Caine plays a naive gentleman saying, oh, he can't believe such atrocities would happen. Well, pretty soon Steve Martin figures out that Michael Caine is really the key con man and wants to learn from him. And then he decides he's going to work the same city with Caine. Caine doesn't want him around scaring away the big fish, so they make a bet. The new soap queen, played by Glenn Headley, and she's wonderful as a ditzy, kind of bumble-headed girl. You kind of feel sorry these guys are going to take her for all her money. But whoever gets $50,000 out of her first wins. The loser leaves town. And from there, this movie gets incredible, as one con, Michael Caine starts off, and then bam, Steve Martin comes in, takes over with his con. It looks like Steve Martin's going to win. Bam, Michael Caine shows up with a better con. It's one con after another. In fact, at the end of the movie, you're saying, how can they out-con the last con? And they do. This is one of the most fun times you'll have at the movie. And along with The Sting, grab them both for late night after the show, and you'll have a great time at the movies. Number 3, again, as Aaron pointed out, House of Games. However, this movie drops a great distance between how much I love the other two. It's a true con movie in the fact that us, the audience, are conned, but it is a thriller. Not a thriller, but more of a psychological type film. This is a good for a one-time viewing only because you know everything that happened. I watched it a second time. I didn't like it near as much. Whereas you go back to The Sting and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, if you know the ending, you still can laugh, and it's got, Sting's got drama and all that. This is definitely a good con movie if that's what you're looking for, but nowhere near Dirty Rotten Scoundrels or The Sting. One movie I like to say to stay away from, critics love, The Grifters. I hated that movie, and I believe, Aaron, you hate it too. Critics love it.
I mean, it's a classic film noir, but at the same time, it's just
boring. It's bad. Stay away from The Grifters.
It's very depressing. It's such a downer of a movie. Honorable mention to The Sting 2.
I haven't
That
seen
was with Jackie Gleason, and it was a great film as well. It was Jackie Gleason and Terry Garr.
All right. So now let's get on with the, what are we doing? Video releases here?
Right.
All right. Let me find my video release card. This week we have Sister Act, which is coming out on home video. And that stars Whoopi Goldberg, I believe, correct?
Sister Act, it's got Whoopi Goldberg, and it's got that comedian. I can't remember her name right now.
Mm-hmm. She's playing a nun or something like that.
Right.
I haven't seen it. And also on pay-per-view this week, we have Straight Talk, which is, I believe, Dolly Parton.
That's Dolly
movie.
Parton and James Woods.
Thunderheart, which I believe is Val Kilmer movie, which I haven't seen.
That's an Indian movie.
Yeah, and Basic Instinct is also on pay-per-view.
Which is an excellent film.
I finally just saw that, and to me it was like a movie. If you don't really analyze it, it makes sense. But when you start analyzing it, it doesn't make sense.
Basic Instinct has got a great score it's got a great score by Jerry Goldsmith, and it's got Paul Verhoeven directing.
Yeah.
Same people from Total Recall.
Yeah,
Sharon Stone
was a good movie, but like I said, you can't really think about it because then it doesn't go good. Also, Once Upon a Crime, and for show times and costs, check Channel 34. And now we're back with our guest.
Each week on Film Forum, we have a special guest. This week is no different. We have Lillie Benitez of Stage Left Casting with us, and we'd like to welcome her to the show. Welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Thank you.
Hi. We'd like to start by asking you what cast directing is.
Well, cast directing is really selecting people for parts, and it involves knowing people and liking people first of all, and being able to select the right person for the part.
So you do extra casting, am I correct?
Casting, right.
Now, I had a question. Do a lot of extras, are they really looking for a film break, or is there a lot of people who just enjoy saying they were in a film?
Believe it or not, they're looking for a break.
Is there any
whether they have talent or not.
Is doing extra work a good way, or is there a better way?
Well, I
to
think that's a good start. Because, first of all, it helps them to really understand whether that's really what they want to do or not. Because a lot of people don't realize it's a lot of work in making films. They think about the glamour of it. But once they get out on the set and they see how long they have to be out there, then sometimes they change their mind and say, well, hey, this is not for me.
We want to remind everybody that the number here is 873-6713. If you have a question for Lillie Benitez, she is an extra casting director. And I'd like to go ahead and ask you another question. Why don't you tell us what casting directors look for when they're casting extras? What do you look for?
Well, you look for primarily the real character of the person themselves. And then you kind of fit that with the character that you're looking for.
What if it's like a crowd scene? You just pick the first 200 people
Okay,
that show up.
in a crowd scene, you look for faces. You know, you want different faces, different characterizations.
To actually go through your photos and pick out for a crowd scene. You just don't pick the first 200
Oh,
pictures.
no.
I understand that you were telling us that the Georgia Film Commission we're actually getting a city and county film commission?
Well, yes, we are in the process of getting a city-county film commission set up, primarily because there's a lot of racism in the state film office. It's like a clique. There are a lot of white and black technicians who cannot even get contracts because they have a roster, and they recommend to producers these same group of people every time a production company comes into Atlanta, which is really not fair. And so we are in the process of setting up a city-county film commission office.
Will that run the whole Georgia or just for films that come in
Well,
So
that will
Atlanta area.
primarily, we'll be serving the production company when they film within the city limits. Of course, the state can take over with other small towns in Georgia if they want to. But we intend to be a much better facility.
Okay, I understand we have a call for the guest. Caller?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am. I was wondering, when a person is interested in getting extra work, how do you do that? Do you need headshots? How do you break into that and get hooked up?
Very good question.
Well, that's the first thing you would do is to send a headshot, a resume, and a headshot to the casting director so that they can see what you look like and get a little information on you.
Is it good to send them out to a lot of different casting directors?
Well, that's what a lot of people have been doing now because, again, there are only certain casting directors that work every set. And so a lot of people don't know them or they can't get in to talk to them or send them a picture. So it makes it kind of rough.
So you should send them to whoever.
Well, just send them to everybody and hope that somebody will call you.
What films have you cast for?
Thanks for
in
calling,
recent times?
caller.
Thank you, caller.
Sure.
The last film that I cast for and also was Wardrobe Mistress was The Three Musketeers.
That's that Richard Pryor
The
movie.
Richard Pryor film, yes. And before that, it was Murder in Mississippi.
I hadn't heard of that one.
Yeah,
Murder in
that was a
Mississippi?
TV
TV
special.
Well,
special.
there were some other feature films I think that I saw in your list.
Well, there have been several that I have cast for, but that was, in other words, I was assisting the casting director that got the contract, but I really did the casting because it was a predominantly black film. And the casting director did not know any black people. Can you believe it?
Here in Atlanta, there should be plenty.
And believe it or not, that's how I got into the business
Just
back
from
in
knowing a lot of
'76.
people, huh?
Yes, the casting director was white. He did not know any blacks, and so he asked me if I would help him, and I did. And then my name started to be passed around, and every year somebody different would call me and ask me if I could help them.
All right, well, that sounds great. And I guess it's time to wrap up
Okay.
here. I'd like to thank you for coming on.
Our guest here has been Lillie Benitez of Stage Left Casting. We want to invite all of you to join us next Wednesday when we'll have 2 new feature releases, one of which will probably be Malcolm X. We'll be doing Critics' Choice, which will be slapstick comedy, and we'll be having on a costumer. That's next week here on Film.
Sounds good. Lillie's going to be watching.
Call us up.
Sure
See you
will.
next Wednesday.
All right, take care out there.
Yeah.